So my name's Carly and I'm from Adelaide, and I'm nearing the end of my 4-week residency here, and so I thought I'd just talk a little bit about my art practice and how I've gotten to making the work that I'm making now. I graduated in 2012 from UniSA, and I was predominantly making work in sculpture and installation, focusing on repetition and multiples of objects and that kind of excess and those sort of ideas. And then I ended up going on residency to India, and I did a lot of textile workshops there, and that sort of brought back my love of textiles from my childhood that I kind of had ignored a little bit while I was at art school, when I was really focusing on the sculpture, and I was actually doing a lot of clay as well. So that kind of changed my direction of my practice a lot, and moving it into more textile-based works. And I did this workshop with some women from the Muslim Quarter in Delhi doing an embroidery technique called shisha. So only last year I had a big solo show at the Contemporary Arts Centre, South Australia, and I knew I wanted to make work using this shisha technique. The technique involves, it's sort of like a crocheting but embroidery technique, that you work both sides of the fabric and you kind of have the fabric stretched around this frame. And they use it to embroider the mirrors on the saris and things in India. And so I needed circular things, and I didn't necessarily want to do mirrors, and I just wanted something, and I ended up having these Beyonce calendars from the previous year in my studio, and that was like a big joke in my studio, like each month, like, oh, what's the next Beyonce going to be? And like, I'm obsessed with Beyonce, I love it. So I ended up cutting that out into circles and doing that technique kind of as just me playing around with it and trying to learn that technique. It's actually pretty difficult, and we were learning it from these women that would just do it super, super fast. And they'd be like, see? And you'd be like, oh, no. So that's sort of how this work developed, because then I started doing the same technique was used to sew sequins. So that's a decal. You can see the stitching around each one. And then sewing the sequins onto it, kind of referencing the pattern that those circles made. And then that technique just turned into this whole body of work using every single page from this Beyonce calendar. And they turned into, like the previous one, into these kind of shrines. So that was all like tassel across the wall with this one work in the middle, kind of spotlit. So they came, it became this really kind of these odes to this pop cultural figure in this whole exhibition. That was another one to show. And so from that, I sort of started thinking about, I think I was not kind of rejecting the idea of using Beyonce as imagery in the work, because for me the work was so much more about the technique involved than her. But then I started thinking about these, the things that I surround myself with every day, and this also for me everyday activity of sewing and embroidery, and for me it's like a release from anxiety and for it just to, something to do, and I sew every single day. So I figured, why can't I combine the two into my arts making? So that led me to researching further into fandom and the way people devote themselves to these pop cultural phenomenons, and how that kind of devotion can lend itself to devotional craft making or art making. This work, so I've now actually started doing my masters, and I'm researching textile fan art, I guess. This work was from an exhibition this year. It was called 1+1, and it's in reference to another Beyonce image of her pregnancy photo shoot that she did to announce that she was pregnant with twins. And just the photo itself was so insane and ridiculous and over the top, and I was like, I need to make something in relation to it, but I think pulling away from that like overt imagery of it. So the pieces themselves were all made individually and then put together to make this kind of human-sized installation. So it would reference maybe a figure, but I guess people who aren't familiar with that photograph might not necessarily pick up
the
on.
bio that she had.
Which is actually from that previous installation as well. But I guess for me too, the making process of this, each individual piece, you know, is about the size of those embroidery rings that you get, and it's sort of that accomplishment of finishing each little bit, and like that bit is done, and then starting a new one with different sequins and beads within this kind of colour scheme, and it's all embroidered onto felt. So from that, I've then started looking at the different fan communities that I myself participate in. So I guess the research is very personal to me, because I do devote myself, or you know, engage myself in these very pop culture communities. So one of my other loves is the Port Adelaide Football Club, and I've started researching into the act of, I mean, there's always the act of knitting scarves and beanies, and you know, women crocheting, predominantly women crocheting rugs and things in their footy colours, and it's this weird kind of cross between it's like inherently feminine activity, but like with this like supposedly masculine sport. But the other thing I've been looking at is the banner making by the it's usually the cheer squad each week, and they make this insane banner out of crepe paper and tape that players just run through and destroy, and they do that every week, and it's this kind of ritual that's this absolute love that they feel for this team, and they feel involved and they feel part of this whole day and event and spectacle. So I've started kind of making my own banner, like to, I guess, represent my love for this team and my love for from years and years of supporting them. So this is a work in progress. I also have a really insane supply of sequins and beads in my studio that I kind of won at this auction. I've literally got like a bead shop in my studio. So I'm just going through everything in there, anything that's teal coloured or black or white, and just really obsessive compulsively sewing and stitching it together. I kind of imagine this to be, you know, maybe this kind of size type thing that will just grow and expand as I keep adding to it. I've been looking at, or like moving the work, the previous Beyonce work, towards this more kind of what we call sloppy craft, or kind of naive craft of just making quite quickly, or without too much thought involved in the planning of things, and creating these kind of collages that might be like a teenager's bedroom or something that's devotional, which are things that I did when I was a child. And so this is the work that I'm working on for Sala Festival in Adelaide in August. And this brings me to the work that I've been doing while I've been the ATW. The final kind of pop culture thing that I've been looking at is The Simpsons, which is something that I've been pretty overly obsessed with my brothers in particular, since we were kids, like, you know, talking to each other in Simpsons quotes and that sort of thing. And I obtained this inkle loom, which is a loom made to make these really small strips of weaving, and I wanted to learn how to use it and make some work out of it, and I found through learning how to use it that it lent itself really nicely to text work, and this brought this work on. And so it's me weaving Simpsons quotes that have been chosen specifically for their feminine gendered content, both positive and negative, and I'm hoping that this kind of oversaturation of words that are both kind of weirdly negative but kind of funny, but then quite positive as well, will kind of further enhance this gendered fan art making process. And this, so from learning on the inkle loom, I wanted to learn how to do the type of weaving that they do here. So that's what I've been working on the last 3 and a bit weeks. Yeah. So they'll all kind of come together to make one big work, I think. It'll just be like overload of information.
So are you going to keep weaving this style?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. It's I think it's got a lot of possibilities in different types of text and size and everything. Because the ink balloon can only kind of get to about this wide, and that's because of the width of the loom. So yeah, I definitely keep doing the type of.
They're really good for first ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I enjoy learning new techniques too and challenging myself, and lots of learning like that DIY craft making learning on YouTube and things like that. Yeah.
Are you going to let your footy team run through your band?
I'm interested in contacting them though and starting some kind of see if I can even I'd love to see the cheer squad make the banners, and it would just be really interesting the work that goes into that. I think I've only sort of just started that work, so still lots going on about it. But yeah, it would be nice if the club got involved.
Anyone have any questions for Carly? No? Cool. Thank you, Carly. Thanks very much.